Hello and good morning, afternoon, or evening to you, whichever it may be, and wherever you may be. I hope everything is good with each of you. Today, the real-world mission set for me, via this virtual, pre-recorded format, is to convey what our organization considers its best HSQE practices. I thank and commend PTEP for the initiative and leadership in providing this platform to its partners, subcontractors, and stakeholders. It brings exposure and focus to HSQE best practices for collective communication, performance advancement, and mutual benefit. For the purpose of my presentation, my task is to distill the many-fold Japan Drilling Company best practices into a digestible subset that is neither overly generalized nor tiresomely detailed. Perhaps I should have chosen the title Best HSQE Practices. So, the next approximately 20 minutes, I'll give you the top HSQE best practices. Short and sweet. No advertisement interruptions and no washroom breaks either. First, a word about me. My name is Keith Koppel. I work at Japan Drilling Company, an offshore drilling contractor that operates jackup, semi-submersible, and drill ship modules. I am based in Tokyo. I have been working in HSE for most of my O&G career. I started in system development and implementation, and auditing and training roles, before moving into HSQE and business development. I have been responsible for implementing those practices and innovations as part of the HSQE agenda. This is an industry that can be both leading and conservative to deliver new practices and improve performances across different teams. And in truth of fact, in the upstream sector, almost every position involves some degree of HSQE activity, or at least awareness of it and the specific aspects involved. But before proceeding, our senior manager overseeing HSQE has a few words. Eguchi-san.
Hello, PTTP, and everyone joining this forum. We have just completed an almost 12-month campaign with PTTP in Myanmar. It was very challenging because of the logistical, operational hurdles of COVID-19 and the severe onset, and very satisfying because it was a brilliant success, which brings what I consider the best practice: effective collaboration and teamwork. This is what made our campaign a great success. It had many challenges and suffering before it even commenced. When the problems were encountered, always solutions were found, over and over, again and again. This required multiple parties to collaborate and work through contractual obligations in the spirit of the true cooperation. In the process, we formed a strong and mutually beneficial partnership. For that, I thank both PTTP and the personnel from my heart. HSQE performance must be driven and implemented at all levels of the organization, including senior management, who must ensure they do not become detached from what is going on offshore and on the rig. We must make ourselves aware of the condition and the concern of our workforce and in general all stakeholders. Safety and environmental protection are societal concerns that we must engage with. And one of our biggest responsibilities is to protect personal and their family life. Thank you, and I look forward to the reminder of this forum. Keith, back to you.
Thank you for that, Eguchi-san. Working in an offshore drilling contractor where people seek and live for accomplishment is exciting. It comes with its challenges, as there can be a want for impact and execution from the get-go. So the role of innovation often involves prioritizing the right things, aligning stakeholders across the business, top to bottom, and ensuring that you have the right skills and capabilities to bring that innovation to life. This includes validating and testing ideas first, often using partners to help where we benefit from an outside-in perspective. We see the same challenges as I suspect most organizations do, from a fear of and a risk of innovation and change, to the challenges in assembling the right teams, formulating the right practices, establishing agreeable mindsets, navigating hierarchies, and getting company-wide buy-in. Added to this, you often find on one pole an obstinacy from people who like things the way they are, and on the other pole, a lack of patience with people looking for immediate impact and results. When can I get that great new thing? Fundamentally, what you need is the willingness to do innovation and the bandwidth to test and experiment, underpinned by the right skills and capabilities. As the landscape continues to evolve and change, both through disruption, most recently the budgetary squeeze of 2014 oil crash, and the pandemic health and logistic challenges, and through new opportunities that become relevant to our own industry, technologies, and adjacent services, we find ourselves increasingly looking at new competitors and evolving regulations and practices where we must learn and adapt our thinking. I see this as a huge positive for HSQE. Many of our practices had their beginnings in other fields, in other industries. Innovation is about curiosity and learning new things. And there is so much to learn from other industries that are not as far removed as they once were. These are our 8 best practices, and indeed products they are of evolution and refinement of HSQ innovations. Here they are. Best practice number 1, collaboration and teamwork. Collaboration, along with brainstorming and teamwork, has gone from buzzword to a practical and commonplace business principle. In the work world, cooperation is usually about keeping everyone in their own swim lane and getting buy-in or approvals across teams and departments at the right time. But collaboration is about combining these swim lanes. There might be team norms and processes involved, but good collaboration also allows for spontaneity and stepping outside of defined roles. Creating a culture of collaboration used to be HR speak. Now it has a practical understanding for commonplace implementation and action. Collaboration only works when all the right people, conversations, and content are connected. Getting people together in a room, a real room, or even a Zoom room today, and establishing common goals is important because tasks, jobs, and projects cannot be run in linear fashion. The spreadsheet or Gantt chart approach of sequential, overlapping, and concurrent tasking isn't responsive to unpredictable and dynamic forces. That doesn't mean anarchy or chaos has to take over, but that complex projects are fluid. Ironically, people and teams can be at their best at times of crisis because they get together to solve them. Urgency in crisis creates moments of clarity. We, in our organization, have over the last 2 years had an extended first-hand experience where collaboration and teamwork was critical to overcoming issues of urgency and moments of crisis. No effective or optimized solution would have been possible without collaboration from our clients, our subcontractors, the regulatory and government bodies, and with the teamwork of our workforce. Injecting a problem-solving collaboration and teamwork ethic into everyday work to deliver innovation that anticipates the future rather than just reacting to it pays off. I think that's where we are headed with variations on agile solutions and problem solving. Next, trained and experienced workforce. Having a trained and experienced workforce makes our best practices list for so many easy to justify reasons. They're profitable, not just in terms of efficiency, professionalism, quality of service, but in terms of the nuts and bolts of HSQE. They have a thorough knowledge of the required methods. They have a sense of responsibility and an ownership of performance. They have built in the intangible of trust and are an irreplaceable source of mentorship. A trained and experienced workforce is a professional workforce. Both elements maximize the result. Trained to ensure consistent practices that conform to set standards, and experienced to establish confidence and mesh with the practicalities to build in flexibility, and to gain leadership. Long-term crew are a great resource. They're a well of knowledge, experience, and mentorship. They bring leadership and a set standard. They transmit the safety culture. Admittedly, new personnel bring new skills, talents, refreshing ideas, and an outsider's eye. Vigorous safety culture. There is wide recognition that a good, functioning safety culture is an essential element in an organization's efforts to prevent accidents in the workplace. There's a wealth of evidence validating the efficacy of a convincing, participatory safety culture. However, defining it can be somewhat more difficult. And as with food culture, it has different flavors and dishes depending on the organization. It is tricky to build a safety culture that permeates bottom to top. It takes time, perseverance, and effort. First, there needs to be a view of the company work culture and a mission. Where to head, what is in the future. Mission promotion, mission leadership, and mission training at all levels within the organization must also be ensured. It must all be underpinned by excellent and regular communication. We share the highs, the best practices, the success stories, and keep the workplace updated on the progress of the mission. To emphasize safety culture, neither belongs to nor is the purview of a single department. It is a company-wide thing. A compelling safety culture is a safety culture that people want to belong to, are proud of, and participate in. It, at best, aims to circumscribe the entire workforce, junior-most to senior-most, rig floor to air-conditioned office, new hands to experienced hands. To successfully build a strong culture of safety, we have ensured we not only communicate, but are also involved in the industry through things like forums, conferences, committees, and other sessions. And by bringing in external people as well to share the different ways of thinking and working. By opening up the conversation, we aim to achieve improved alignment with each member of our workforce and our external partners. Continual hazard identification and awareness. An industrial workplace requires personnel to continually be on the lookout for hazards and have an awareness of the activities in their environment. Preventative measures go a long way to eliminating and reducing risk, but predictive measures are required to close that gap. Predictive in the sense of imagining or role-playing how a hazard might trigger an incident, to brainstorming and conceptualizing scenarios that might eventuate if a hazard is overlooked or not barriered. New hazards, many minor, are continually being introduced into the workplace. Hazards caused by being absent-minded, by taking a shortcut, by being rushed. Hazards caused by corrosion and plant equipment failure or malfunction. Hazards caused by complex interactions. One of our long-running best practices has emphasized programs to continually identify workplace hazards and maintain, refresh, and stimulate safety awareness. Hazard mitigation control. This best practice is an extension of the previous best practice, hazard identification and awareness, and is distinct and important enough to warrant a listing all its own. The hierarchy of safety control has 5 rungs: elimination, substitution, engineering controls, administrative controls, and PPE. Elimination of the hazard is the ultimate goal, but is often not possible. This leaves many hazards to be controlled. To mitigate and hopefully eliminate these risks, we must invest in hazard control processes. In our organization, they boil down to the big three. They are permit to work, lockout tagout, and JSA. Permit to work is, as it sounds, a permitting process for jobs with more than minimal associated risks. In addition to identifying and barriering attendant hazards, it functions as a management control for simultaneous operations to prevent one job triggering an incident in another job where personnel would otherwise be unaware of each other's activities. Lockout tagout is the control to isolate the sudden activation of energy, to keeping the valve closed and the switch off. It's a wall between me and that angry bull. And JSAs, job safety analysis, are often used to systematically move through the steps of a job to identify hazards and ensure the preventative measures are adequate. Everyone on the team has to be involved. These three do the big work in hazard mitigation. We rely on them a dozen times a day, maybe 24. Admittedly, they become repetitive. When things become repetitive, they can be overlooked and even ignored. So, the challenge here is not to simply force adherence to the rules, but rather foster an appreciation and an understanding of the benefits. It takes energy and commitment. Incident and near-miss learnings. It's refreshing to be part of a team that is inquisitive and to be part of an organization that says, we don't know enough and we want to learn and understand, and to take a positive from a negative. Great for someone in my position. Of course, our aim is to prevent incidents, and thankfully, measures taken over the years have greatly reduced them, but not completely by any means. They still occur. There's ample space for improvement. Critical to making such improvements is learning from actual incidents and near-miss incidents. And again, is a recurring theme. To piggyback on the hard lessons learned by others in the industry and adjacent industries is to collaborate. It would be foolish not to do so. Incidents and near misses are gold mines for improvement. Their very reality cannot be dismissed as a hypothetical. Incident investigations into the immediate, intermediate, and root causes reveal hidden, unanticipated, obscure, anti-intuitive, and even ignored shortcomings. Incidents and near misses, if carefully investigated, offer easy-to-pick solutions. Solutions or barriers that, of course, must formally be implemented at the system level if they are to endure over time and across the organization for others to benefit from. Incident and near-miss learnings are, without exaggeration, massive opportunities for HSQE improvement. Harvest them. Communication. KISS, but calibrate. Keep it simple, stupid. It is a bit contradictory, but I like the aim of the expression. I know someone that is continually saying, make it simple, make it simple. That is easily said, but often an impracticability. Too many times, the devil is in the details. Unanalyzed risks and simplification of complexity has its limits. Miscommunication or misunderstanding of the message is the cause of a great many incidents. We communicate verbally in meetings, by hand signals in noisy environments, by labels and graphics on equipment, and by paper-based work instructions. Striking a balance between simple and oversimplification is the trick. In our organization, for good communication, we believe in doubling down on the fundamentals, allotting lots of time, repeating from different angles and perspectives, checking for understanding, making an open conversation, and using aids such as videos and illustrations. There is no substitute for effective communication. Communication that is simple and thorough. Workforce engagement. 20 years ago, there was still very much a bottom-up approach to HSQE best practices. However, the industry has learned from experience, trained its workforce, and sees the benefit from the investment in HSQE. The tides have changed over the last 10-20 years. It's now commonplace for top management to not only recognize and engage with the importance of HSQE, but also to build it into the corporate agenda. Today, what we call on from our workforce and our partners is quite different to what it was. In the past, industry at large still called upon external partners to help them understand what HSQE was and how to do it. Now, so much of the motivation, innovation, proactivity, and solutions come from within the organization, within the crew, and within the work group. In my own years, we outsourced expert advice. We brought in consultants for solutions and to drive the activity. Now, there are very few HSQE elements for which we do not have internal expertise or even an outside-in perspective. From time to time, we may require advice and guidance on very specific issues, but mostly it is our engaged workforce who have the solutions. Solutions that are localized, matched, and specific to their workplace. Solutions that are applicable across the organization. Takeaways and way forward. There are a great many HSQE programs and practices. Those with the most impact and that leverage a broader mindset have the biggest payoff. They are our best practices. They are well established from our experiences and the industry at large. This is not to say they will not be replaced or supplemented by other best practices. They may not be the best practices tomorrow. In fact, I fully expect that many of these programs and standards that underlie and support these best practices will evolve and improve. That's good. They should. Improvement doesn't stop and it's not static. Our objective is to continue whittling away and to conquer that category of hard to extinguish incidents. I hope our experiences and this was of use to you. Thank you for listening and thank you for your time.